Welcome back to Whatever It Takes, the podcast about doing whatever it takes to make content engaging. I'm Lucy Allen, CEO at Challenge Marketing, and today we're talking about insights. Marketeers are surrounded by data, dashboard, metrics, MarTech tools, but what's going to help make content engaging isn't the numbers, it's the insights behind them. So a quick stat that we've been using throughout the Challenge Accepted podcast series is this quote from Ahrefs that says 96.55% of all online content is getting zero traffic. That's an amazing stat, I think. Marketing Week reported that 92% of UK CMOs regret how tech-heavy their roles have become. If you extrapolate that out, apparently, according to the same study, to 3 to 5 years, that number goes up to 100%. 100% of CMOs think that their role is too tech-heavy in today's modern world. So how do we turn this into something meaningful? How do we turn data into something meaningful and give something people actually want to engage with? That's what we're going to unpack today. I'm joined today by Ginny Follen, our behavioural scientist. Hi, Ginny.
Hello.
And today our special guest is the lovely Mohit Sikka, a global B2B marketeer. Hey, Mohit.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. So before we dive in, I think it's worth just setting the scene a little bit because insights is a fairly broad subject. So I just wanted to say that we know that there is operational data-driven insights, patterns the numbers tell us. There's behavioral insights that we will dig more into. There's emotional insights, neuromarketing, which is fascinating, putting electrodes on heads and seeing what's going on with the body and the brain when we dive into this. So we're going to touch on some of these today. In a different episode, we'll go deeper into empathy because empathy has a more distinct relation to data. But today we're concentrating on insights. Okay, so let's try and keep it simple. What's the difference between data and insights? There are a bazillion analogies out there to explain the difference. But Mohit, let's come to you first. Give me your analogy for the difference between data and insights, please.
Sure. First of all, thank you so much, Lucy, for the introduction. Okay, so before I start, I have a question for you. Do you love cricket?
I do, actually, I do. I got very into it with the Ashes series about 12 years ago, I think. Yes, no, I love it.
Perfect. So, data and insight, I always think of data and insight as just like a cricket match, just like in cricket, the scoreboard is representing the data and scoreboard basically tells you about how many overs have been bowled, how many wickets have fallen down, or how many runs have been scored. That's all data, which is currently telling you what's currently happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when the coach comes into the picture, he is someone who thinks beyond the data, beyond the numbers, right? He actually thinks upon that. Why this numbers, right? I mean, he basically study the pitch behavior. He basically study the weather conditions. And more or less the mindset of the opposition as well, and accordingly adjust his batting order or a bowling order. Quite similar happens in marketing too. In marketing, the dashboards tells us the data, the score, but it's actually the insights which tells us the story behind it.
Well,
yeah. So it's just like data. When you little refine it, it becomes an insights when you get to know more about the whereabouts. And accordingly, you plan out your strategies. So for me, it always is data, insights, and strategies.
yeah, love it. That makes a lot of sense. Ginny, you got an analogy about data and insights?
I mean, I don't really follow or understand cricket. I've been to a couple of games and spent more time drinking than watching the cricket, if I'm honest. That analogy from my brain didn't work. To keep on your sports theme, Mohit, for me, it's when you've got horse racing, you've got the data of how the horse has performed, you've got how wet the grass is. But then you've also got, you can go to the paddock and see the horses and you can make your own opinion. And based on all of that data, people will bet on different horses, and it's their insights and their experience that would change it. So when you talked about cricket, my brain, in order to try and understand what you were saying, pivoted to horse racing. Not that I know a lot about horse racing either, to be honest. But that,
I mean, Jenny, the methodology work in the same way, so the bottom line is, when the data is something which is basically you are getting to see what's happening right now, but when we actually go deep dive and study the whereabouts, which, by the way, I hope you agree with me, which help us to build our strategies, that's basically an insight. So I mean, it's the same way.
Yeah, it seems that there's a little bit more of a human layer gets put on top of it, that the data is the numbers and the hard facts and stats, the quantitative, and we put the qualitative to it. I can never say qualitative. It always feels like it's got too many
too many T's in quality.
Yeah, exactly. But maybe that's me. And I'm so glad neither of you did the data's the new oil analogy, because if I hear that one more time, heads mark.
Yeah.
Jenny, from a behavioural science point of view, why do we love analogies? B2B in particular is analogies, acronyms. Why?
I mean, my assumption is that an analogy makes it, to talk to another point, clarity, it makes it clearer. And it gives our brains a shortcut to understand. We don't need to process every detail. We can connect it to something we already know, which for a psychological term is cognitive fluency. So the easier something is to grasp, the more powerful it feels, etc. That would be what my assumption would be.
Cognitive fluency.
Yeah.
There's a new one for today for us all. Thank you. Mohit, in your world, why do insights matter? Can you share a time when insights, a pile of numbers, data on a cricketing scoreboard, has turned into something that people can actually engage with? Do you have any?
Oh, that's an interesting question, by the way, Lucy. Okay, so
thank you. We aim to be interesting on this. We aim to be engaging all the time. That's the plan.
That made me think of one of the campaign which I did many years ago, and the dwell time, which basically in marketing terms is the actual time spent by an individual on your website or on your landing page. Yeah. So the dwell time was very high on the part of our website. So initially, as a marketer, it looked like a success. Yeah. That it's like that people are loving the content which you have exactly written. So, but the marketing mind was curious, and the marketing mind says that you have a good dwell time, but still why there are no signups. Literally I had, you can say that, as zero conversions or very less conversions. Yeah. So I was very curious about this, that why this is happening. So what I did is, I instructed my team to make some changes to simplify the content a little, and also, speak to the concerns. So, the insight what I get out of it was, the dwell time was high, but people were still confused. Yeah. They were trying their hard to understand what I wanted to explain. And that was one of the learnings I learned that day, that data becomes useful or valuable when it lets you to do different things, making your customer understand. So, I mean, that was it.
I mean, I wonder if I'm making a jump too far here, but you're saying you're looking at the data and the dwell time is too long, but something was long, but it wasn't working. So is that an emotional insight? That's to do with there was something there that meant that they weren't converting, and that's the why. And that's where the insights really come into their own, because you're not looking at the data, you're looking at the behavior, and you're making assumptions, and you're looking at maybe there were emotions in play, maybe something else was going on, and then used that to change the...
No, absolutely. I can share the change which we made is I requested my team to make the wording simpler, not to use much of the technical or a jargon words. So I think that literally worked, and that is where I can connect to what you said, Jenny, about the emotional intelligence or about the emotional insights.
Sorry, Luce, jumping in. I wonder, that's, I think, where the power of being like Mohit, you instinctively knew through years of experience as a marketer that I reckon we've got too much jargon in there, so let's change it. So you were doing an unofficial A/B test based on your knowledge of humans and marketing. And maybe that's an argument for humans within this AI world. Would AI have picked up on that in quite the same way that you did? Here's me trying to be like, marketing profession is going to stick around for the next 20 years.
Of course.
Yeah. I think the human layer's coming out in this conversation already, and we're 5 minutes in, and I'm pretty sure everyone will agree that human layer is still absolutely vital.
In fact, according to me, that's very important, by the way.
Yeah, the human factor. I think so.
Human factor.
Segue slightly then to the data overload issue. So 15,000 MarTech tools currently in circulation, probably 15,500 in me just saying that sentence. There's probably 16,000 now. There's so much information, so many dashboards, so many platforms, so many information overload. Mohit, how does that play out in your day-to-day? Which metrics actually help shape content, and which ones are red herrings? How do you know what to pay attention to and what to ignore?
Whoa, okay. Well, as a marketer, first, you love numbers. You are always curious about numbers, and you just talked about matrices. I would say it's very easy to fall in love with a vanity matrices. Like if you get good likes, comments, shares, that looks very impressive to you. But what I really feel is, the actual engagement, it's become useful when it brings you the actual engagement to the actions. Yeah. So, for example, if I talk about, if I talk about me, I really like, more dwell time. I really like shareability. I really like repeated visits, because according to me, it tells me that people are actually liking my content and people wants to know more about me, but quite possible that it works different for the different individuals, and let me explain you via an example. So for example, you are doing a campaign, and as a marketing lead, you want to have more signups. Yeah, you want more people to sign up for your platform, etc., etc. So you are interested in the more signups. Now, when you go to your leadership will more be interested in knowing the designation or a job role, or maybe the company size of people signed up. Because they will think from the leadership perspective, from the futuristic perspective. Now, that's another insight. Now, then you go to sales. Sales will more or less be interested in knowing the behavior of the person who have signed up. Sales will be interested to know that how much time or what are the actions that particular sign up person has made on your platforms. You can say that our listeners who are listening to us use the Salesforce, then probably they get to know that what I'm saying, that we call it as an Einstein score in the Salesforce campaign management tool.
There'll be a lot of people nodding at Einstein score. Yeah.
So I mean, it totally depends on your objective. It totally depends on what exactly you want to see. So I would say matrices is not limited to one individual or one expectations.
Yeah, but you see across the business different areas within the business wanting different data, wanting different insights. So sales want different insights than marketing the CFO wants.
Of course, correct.
Is this not why marketers are getting a tech stack overload? Is like, it was this new fabulous thing. I'm over 15 years ago. All of a sudden, marketing was going to be less artsy and more sciencey, and was providing the CFO with what they needed to justify their existence. And all of this data and maths and numbers was brought into the equation. And now we've been like, but humans are not maths, data and numbers. As we're discussing, the data is one thing, and it's the insights and it's the humanity that's different. And for me as a marketer, it's really frustrating. And I'm like, I know this is going to work, but it is going to take me 3 years to prove it to you mathematically that it's going to work. Therefore, innovation doesn't happen, and the essence of marketing is lost. So, if MarTech is stripping away what the fundamental aspect of marketing is, which is engaging with humans, then is that potentially why? Because you've got all of these people sticking their noses in and wanting to have an opinion, and I don't know.
Yeah. Is our insights and data killing creativity? We have a whole episode on creativity that you are not going to want to miss. If it's not out already, watch it. It's going to be a doozy. But yes, I think insights and data and the longevity of creativity, it's all affected by the speed of turnover, this desperate need for more and more and more insights, more data.
We always talk about data. Like, you might have seen people talking about that. The more data you have, the more findings you'll get. So what I want to advise here is, well, definitely it's good to have that you have a data, but try and understand the fact that why this data. Try to understand the whereabouts. I mean, Ginny, you were talking about you were talking about the emotional intelligence thing. Again, that is something which lies here as well. I mean, so yeah, I mean, it's important to circulate all the factors, to understand all the factors before making any decision about a particular thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the emotional insights of is a very different factor. I think we'd hop ahead a little bit and we think about John Lewis Christmas ads here in the UK. That they're famous because they're not really about a product. They're about a feeling. They're about that emotional instinct that sort of makes something stick. So let's touch on emotional insights then briefly whilst we're here. Is why do they stick in our minds more than rational ones? Ginny, what's going on with the emotion insight?
I don't necessarily stick in on my more than rational ones, but there is definitely a layer there of it's the why, it's the novelty of it. Emotions connect with us in terms of identity. And that's more intrinsic. So with the John Lewis, like if the Christmas ads, they didn't promote a product. They promoted that at Christmas, when you love someone, they give them a gift, and it's all about that caring. And that resonates with us inherently. And because of that, we identify more with it. And then because we identify more with it, it relates to the fact that with emotions, we're more likely to make rapid decisions. So it goes into that whole, which I've talked to before, the system 1 versus system 2 part of the brain. It's less effortful, it's autopilot versus having to think about it. And because our brains are lazy, we're more attuned to emotions. Was I clear enough with that response?
That's good. I think it's that we feel connected to it. From a head and heart perspective, I suppose maybe the head's interested in some information, but the heart wants other, which a data scientist probably is absolutely rolling their eyes at me of, that's just not how it works. Like that's how my little brain interprets the difference between it.
Unless that data scientist is analysing data within a Google science experiment, in which case they're fully on board with what you're saying.
So let's make this practical then. Let's actually think about a time when insights has changed the way you've created or delivered content. Mohit, in your global B2B marketing role, have you got an example of where insights have directly impacted something that you've done from your content or your delivery of content?
You are throwing tough questions for me, Lucy, by the way. Eh?
No easy ride. No easy rides here on Challenge. You want the hard truth.
Okay. Well, I again can think of one of the example which I did approximately 3-4 years back. So we were running a campaign on a specific content, and to be very honest, I was the one who basically developed all the strategies. So I was very curious to know how would it perform. Yeah. So me and my team, we expected the engagement to spike within the first few weeks, or I would say few days, to be honest. Yeah. But it did not happen that way. It did not happen that way. And I was little sort of disappointed and more curious that why this is happening. If we take it in the past, we would have easily considered this as a failure and maybe shorten the duration or maybe stop the campaign or something like that. But instead, what we did was we tracked the time, and we were making sure that our analogies, our strategies, our efforts are were made in the right direction. So as a result, what I noticed was probably after 4 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, there was a spike in the engagement, and it performed very well. So that day there was a new learning for me as well, and that learning was, I would say, not all data act immediately. Not all content resonate immediately. Sometimes the good content takes time to gain the trust of an audience. That's one insight for me that time. Another insight, my colleague was doing a similar campaign on a different geography, on a different geography with a different content, right? So the initiatives or the strategies which I had made worked, the ones which worked for me very well, that was not the case with her. So that was also a second insight, that not every activity or a strategy is meant for your campaign. You need to study the people behavior. You need to study the likes, the whereabouts of the reason you are running a campaign, the platform, and then apply it. So that was my take on from that campaign.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's basically the crux of why behavioral economics and behavioral science became a thing, because previously people assumed that everyone was rational and that you could predict behavior based on logic. And much to you saying that campaigns perform differently based on the context, that is what behavioral science say. That is why, by default, A/B testing became such a big thing in marketing, because it understands that behavior and marketing is situational, and a low click-through rate doesn't necessarily mean disinterest. It could mean, to use a trite example, the color of the button wasn't resonating, or you were promoting sunglasses when it was raining. And so all of these things need to be considered when building out a marketing campaign. And it's based on the insights, like you say, of the data says one thing, but let me use what I know about my audience and my region, and therefore pivot accordingly, and maybe run A/B tests based on hypotheses that you base on that behavior, just to confirm that your assumption is correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's the Rory Sutherland quote, isn't it, about people don't think what they feel, don't say what they think, and don't do what they say. We're quite contrite, us humans. We like to say one thing and mean something else, and do something else completely different.
And to throw jargon at you, that is your stated preferences versus your revealed preferences. It's a whole thing.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, that's a whole nother episode then.
That's
there.
a whole nother episode. Yeah.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room, AI, when it comes to insights. AI can churn out more content, more data than ever before, but does it actually help us find better insights or just faster ones? Mohit, have you seen in practice that AI has given you useful insight, or is it just more noise?
Well, Lucy, honestly, it's difficult to tell for anyone, you know, where where the fact that AI is brilliant at speed, it can, as you said, it can churn out or process the data at a quick, faster rate. But sometimes I feel that it is also important to connect the meaning, to get the meaning out of it, to connect and get the meaning out of it. Yeah. Which I feel sometimes it's not only about what, but it also about why and how. Right. So that is where I feel, we also discussed in the starting of this episode as well, that why human intelligence or why human interference is necessary. I believe this is one of the thing why human intelligence or interference is also necessary, to study the engagement more from emotional perspective. Yeah. So all I can say is, AI is something which is not here to replace human intelligence, but AI will definitely enhance, speed up, amplify, or nourish the activities or the engagement thoughts of human intelligence.
Nourishment's a nice word to use in that. I've heard enhance and augment, but nourish is it's a really wholesome interaction with AI. I really like that. Ginny, from a behavioral science point of view, do people trust machine-driven insights as much as human? Do we have an opinion on it?
Do you know what? It's a really interesting one. We could be here for ages discussing technology and behavior and trust and all that jazz. Anecdotally, and through using AI more and more over the past few months, my gut would be to say that we do trust it more. It's like crowdsourcing opinion and believing someone external who you think is therefore going to be fairer, more just and unbiased, which we haven't touched on actually, is around the bias involved in insights, which happens in AI, as everyone has, I'm sure, read about how AI is biased. Humans are also biased. So it's actually really nuanced. And when you look at the literature around it, and it's been a long time since I've done a literature review, so I'm not going to say this is backed up 100%, but broadly speaking, we don't trust machines and AI more. We still trust humans more than we trust AI. If you're more AI fluent, if you've built up trust with it and it's given you responses that you believe in, that might change. And if it's a low stakes decision, it might change. But based on the academic literature, we don't trust AI more.
I think there's the term black box in AI. That's this sort of understanding that we understand the information going in, we don't necessarily understand the actions that AI is taking to give us the output. So AI can tell you what happened, but not, as Mohit, you said, not always give you the how or the why. It's still a brilliant insight that can explain, but can't explain their working out. It's risky if we don't understand how the model is deciding. We can't spot the bias. It might just be exacerbating bias, or that it might just be regurgitating information that's been fed to it that was wrong in the first place. Ginny, do you want to talk about there being bias in AI and in humans, right? We've already talked about sales department and slightly different information than marketing department. So we all interpret things slightly different, and AI can exacerbate that, I suppose. So what's going on with the bias factor when we're talking about insights?
So yes, so the benefit that we've been talking about with insights is that you're putting the human perspective onto cold data that doesn't give context. But every single human has context behind them, has a background, has biases. It's just how our brains are worked. We've got biases, we've got heuristics that change the unconscious decisions we make. So when it comes to insights, we've still got to understand that there are biases at stake. So one very common one is the confirmation bias. We tend to look for things that confirm our initial beliefs. And I'm sure we all know, like, you can go out there and if you're writing a deck and you're trying to sell an idea to the business, you can find a stat or data out there that confirms your perspective. Like,
Yeah.
whether or not it's scientific is another matter entirely. And even when we're presented with data that says the exact opposite of what we believe, we will double down on our beliefs. And this goes beyond marketing. You can see it in the world at the moment. So yeah, so we should definitely consider when it comes to insights that AI and human insights are always biased.
Yeah.
Which is why groupthink and which is why you need a diversity of opinions when decisions are being made. Data shows that diversity of opinions improves the decision, and this is probably why.
Yeah.
So it's reflecting back whatever we think, right, including our own biases. So unless we keep humans in the loop to question those patterns, we end up just automating yesterday's mistakes at scale, potentially, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you kind of want an insight that jars you a little bit, that you believe, because that suggests it's a real insight. So you kind of want to be proven wrong.
Lies, damn lies, and statistics.
And not sure whether you both have seen it or not. You know, sometimes it's also written that do verify the facts and the results presented or reflected by AI. You know, and it's been said here that do not use AI too much, especially for the legal processes or for the medical processes. Yeah, so because because as you said, it totally reflects what exactly we pour into it. So but brilliant correlation, Jenny.
So let's think about wrapping this up then. What's the one thing do we think marketers can do tomorrow, today, depending on when you're watching this, to sharpen how they use insights to make content more engaging? Mohit, what's your one thing?
Talk to customers more often. Yeah, sometimes you can say that sometimes, you know, one conversation can give you that much insight about your business or about your customer that many dashboards won't be able to. Again, we are circling back on the fact that human interference is necessary. Yeah.
We're up to 22,000 MarTech tools now. By the way, I think time's marching on. There's tools happening left, right, and centre. Ginny, what's your one piece of advice? What's your one take?
Mine is probably not surprising because I mentioned it a couple of times. For me, the best insights come from quantitative with all the T's and the qualitative T's data. So for me, if you've got enough traffic, for example, on your website, A/B test and use that to understand the context and have your hypotheses. So you've got your don't miss out as a CTA, which stems from your loss aversion that humans don't like. And you could test that against join 10,000 other people at our event, which brings in a social proof that we all know marketers love. And so A/B test is my answer.
Yeah, some really good advice there, I think. So just for fun, as we have been doing with all of the Challenge Accepted podcasts, if insights were a biscuit, what biscuit would it be? I've really struggled with this one. Mohit, what biscuit did you come up with?
That's the toughest question, to be honest, Lucy. Till now.
Save the worst till last. It's what people want to hear about, though. It's all about the biscuit.
Well, if insights were biscuits, then it would be bourbon.
I reckon it would be a penguin, because on the surface it's a biscuit, but inside there's a layer that you didn't know about, and that's what insight is all about. Because a penguin is a bourbon wrapped in chocolate. So
genius, Ginny, huh?
So are we all in agreement that that's it? Insights is a penguin biscuit. I struggled. I'd gone through, is it a selection box that has got lots of different biscuits in it that when you bring it together but it didn't work for me, or a Kit Kat, and that's kind of cheating because Kit Kat isn't a biscuit, it's a chocolate. And we've got to be correct on this. So that's where I ended up. So that's the end of our episode, folks. Thank you very much for joining us. Ginny, as always, a pleasure. Mohit, thank you very much for your time, and thank you everyone for joining us. Please subscribe to our podcast if you haven't already. See the previous episodes. More coming up, and do remember until next time that engagement is everything. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Yes.